Okay, in the last part, we looked at creating our tangent circles, where our first circle was a little bit more free. We'd use 2 points A and B to create our circle and our tangent, which allowed us to adjust not only the size of our circle, but the location of the tangent sort of in a more organic way by just moving points that are associated with the circle. But our second circle was controlled by a slider. So in this part, we're going to use a little bit of geometry to create a point that will allow us to create the second circle where we can drag the point to create circles of different sizes. To do that, if we go back to the article and we look at this figure, and if we sort of remind ourselves that the circle on the left had radius r, the circle on the right had radius little r, so this distance here was little r, this distance here was big R. We're treating it like this is our first circle, the one that we've just created, and we're trying to create the second one. Now, if we look at the second one, we see that this center of the second circle is a distance of little r from this line, and a distance of r plus r from this point. Now, if you know a little bit about conic sections, you know that a parabola is the locus of points that are equal distance from a fixed point called the focus and a fixed line called the directrix. Now in this case, these things aren't equal distance. This one's r plus r, this one's just r. But if we did a little bit of playing, since we know that from P to S is r, if we reflected P in the line to get P prime down here, then this distance would be r, and if we created a line parallel to L prime, then by construction, Q is the point that's the same distance from P and from this line L prime, which means that Q is going to be on some parabola. So if I create the parabola with P as its focus and this new line L prime as its directrix, then any point on that parabola will serve as the center of our circle. All right, so let's do that then. So we saw that this is our R, there's our line. So I'm going to reflect this point across this line. So I'm going to reflect the point in the line to get a new point. I'm going to create a parallel line, a line that goes through this point and is parallel to this line. So this is going to be our focus. This is going to be our directrix. And as a result, now I can go to our conic sections up here, and there's a parabola. And if I tell it this is the focus and this is the directrix, there is our parabola. And again, if I adjust my A, the parabola adjusts. So how is this helpful? Well, we saw from over here that if I had that parabola, the parabola would kind of go something like this, that Q is going to lie on that parabola. So if I go back to here, it means that if I pick a point on the parabola, if I create a circle that's tangent to this line, it's also going to be tangent to the circle. So I'm going to go to point on object, create a point on the parabola, and now to guarantee that I create a circle that is has center at this point and is tangent to this line, I recall that the radius out to a point of tangency is perpendicular. So if I drop a perpendicular line from here to that point of tangency, that line of tangency, then our intersection right there is going to be on the circle. So I can go back to the circle through center and point, and bang. Now I've created my sketch where not only is my first circle sort of controlled a little bit more organically with 2 points that are related to it, my second circle is controlled by its center, okay, which is a little bit more natural than using a slider. And again, if I come to my algebra and I order it in terms of type, it helps me to see, oh, I don't need this point A prime. I don't need to see that point A prime. I don't really need to see that point D. I don't need the line G or H. And I don't really need to see that parabola. But actually, I'm going to keep that parabola for now. Okay? And the reason I'm going to keep that parabola for now is we're going to keep going with that reasoning. And that is, if we go back to our picture, we saw that if I created a line parallel to our original line that was a distance of this radius below it and created our parabola, then any point on that parabola, if I dropped a perpendicular to here, I could create a circle that's tangent to the circle and the parabola. Well, if I use that same logic and I say, well, what happens if I take this guy and I reflect this guy in the line to get Q prime? I find another line down here, L double prime. And if I use this as my focus and this is my directrix, I'm going to get a parabola like this, okay, where every point on it is, I can create a circle that's tangent to the same line and the same, and to this circle. And you see it goes through P. And you might say, well, who cares? We already know the first circle. But the important thing is those two parabolas cross, which means that where they cross is going to be the center of the circle that's tangent to both of them as well as the line. So we could actually use this geometry and not even use that computation that we had used earlier. So if we go back to here, and now we go through exactly the same process, let's reflect this point and this line. Let's create a parallel line through here to here. That's going to be my directrix. Let's go to my conic section, my parabola, use that as focus, use this as the directrix. I get my new parabola. And again, I could create a circle on there, but now this point of intersection should be the center of our desired circle. And now if we go and do perpendicular line from there to there, get our intersection, oops, get our intersection there, and do my circle through center and point. There is our circle. And again, the first circle is controlled by any 2 points, which gives us our size and our tangent. The second circle, we can determine its location of its center, which will then determine its center or its radius. And those two circles determine the third one. And now I could go up all to all this conic stuff and get rid of, I move this across. I can see some of the labels of these. I see that E and C and P are the things that I want, so I probably don't want K and D. I don't want these new lines. And all that I'm left with, I get rid of F2. All that I'm left with are those three circles that I can get rid of C prime too. I can control the first one any way I want. I can control a little bit of the second one because it has some dependency on the first. And the third one is totally determined by the first two. Okay. In the next part, what we're going to do, because we could do this process again, I could create a parabola related to this circle, and where it crosses this guy will be the circle that goes in here, and where it crosses this guy will be the circle that goes in here, and we could just keep going. But in the next part, we'll look at creating some tools so that it makes our construction a lot easier.